what have Joe Biden and Kamala Harris really done for us? You got a minute? Cause I got receipts. How about this? The first black woman on the Supreme Court ever. How about $16 billion to support HBCUs and $153 billion and counting in student loans forgiven? Police and criminal justice reform? Joe and Kamala did that too. Banning chokeholds for federal officers. They also pardoned thousands convicted of marijuana possession and made historic investments in our K through 12 public schools. And remember getting those checks to help with groceries and help to make rent and mortgage payments? Yeah, Joe and Kamala did that too. And yeah, you might not have heard a lot of this because Joe and Kamala don't run their mouths like that other guy. They just get things done.
I am not a Democrat. I don't like the Democrats. I definitely don't like Joe Biden. I don't think he should be the president of the United States. And absolutely Donald Trump should not be near anywhere, anything that has to do with power or governance whatsoever. You think Joe Biden is bad? Trump take it to a whole nother level. But we're talking about Joe Biden in this video and the Democrats. Again, not a fan of them. I think Joe Biden is a fraud. I think he's a liar. I shouldn't say I think. I mean, he's a known liar. I mean, he's been lying for a very long time. What was that thing with Mandela? I mean, he even tried to run for president decades ago and had to withdraw because of the lying, right? I don't appreciate liars. I don't appreciate corrupt politicians. However, and I also want to put another qualifier. I don't think I've ever played a political ad on this channel because unlike pretty much any other channel that talks about politics, this is not a propaganda channel, right? I'm not here to promote Democrats. I'm here to promote Republicans. I'm not here to be contrarian and just go against whatever anyone else is saying. That's not the point here. I'm here to get people to unplug from partisan media, unplug from their tribes, and to critically think about things, right? If you want to vote for Republicans, I want to make sure you're voting for Republicans based on the truth and reality. If you are fully embracing the reality and truth of the Republicans and what it means to vote for them, and you choose to vote for them, do your thing, right? I'm not here to, a lot of these guys, they want to talk about their competitors as propagandists, but then what are you guys doing? I hear people using words like, I'm trying to get my message out and we gotta, like Brian Tyler Cohen, he's doing all this like fundraising, he's interviewing the president. That's propaganda, man. He's not just giving his opinions, right? He's trying to promote an ideology and demote another ideology. That is propaganda. But that being said, and if you appreciate that, click on the like button, subscribe, welcome aboard. I want you guys to understand who's saying this, right? You understand who I am if you're new to the channel. So, while I don't like the Democrats and I have really not much good things to say about them, and one of the key reasons, I'll qualify that as well, unlike a lot of other people, when I look at the Democrats or any political party, I don't grade you based on history, right? This is the way that I think, right? If you hire someone who never shows up to work, right, and a month later they actually show up to work, I'm not gonna celebrate like, oh wow, this is a historic attendance by this person, or maybe they show up for 2 days in this week. This is historic, right? This is 100% improvement in attendance. No, I set the standard based on what is required, what is needed, what should be expected. You're hired to do a job. Part of the requirements or expectation is that you show up for work, right? If you are the president of the United States, if you are a political party in the United States, there's a certain level of expectation that I have in terms of you should be working as hard as you can to deliver as much for the American people. You should be honest. You should be transparent. You should be engaging with your voters, not running away and hiding from them, right? So my standards don't change if, let's say, in the last 100 years, we've had pretty decent political parties that have done a pretty decent job, and we've had a lot of progress because of that. If that's the outcome, my expectations are the same as they are now in the reality of, for example, look at minimum wage, right? Used to rise with inflation. They disconnected it, so it's fallen behind, right? And what's being done about it? People want to talk about the border all the time. When have we seen any major change with immigration? Right, this is just something that you keep talking about. Democrats talking about, Republicans talking about. Right, so we've seen a lot of stagnation. We've seen little crumbs here and there. We're seeing a lot of symbolic things being done. Right, kneeling in what is it, African garb or whatever. We see a lot of stuff like that. Right, and ironically, in the very ad I just showed you, they talked about the first African American Supreme Court, which that's one of the things that I'm not that much concerned with. But that being said, I do recognize that the Democrats do actually get some things done. They do focus on things that are really important. The big problem with them is in execution. And the big problem with them is that they don't really fight for things. They would rather, have the rhetoric than actually have the fight and push for something. And the Republicans will go all out to fight for nonsense, and the Democrats will sit on their asses regarding things that are very, very important. Right? That is the way I look at it. So that being said, I am actually aware of Biden actually delivering some things. Not like he's just been in office, hasn't done anything. But I'm so upset and annoyed and frustrated with our political system that I tend to focus a lot on the negatives. Now, unlike other YouTubers, I don't just focus on how bad Joe Biden is and I have nothing to say about Trump or vice versa. No, I look at them as both frauds and both liars. But unlike the enlightened centrists, I see a contrast between the two. I mean, they're both well past retirement, but one of them is also nuts, right? Donald Trump is nuts. So not only is he suffering from similar mental issues as Joe Biden apparently is, in my view, but it is also crazy. It's the equivalent of when you talk about somebody being drunk, right? Think about a jerk with no morals whatsoever being drunk versus a person who has good morals and is a good person generally being drunk, right? They're both drunk. One of them is going to be far worse than the other, right? Because they're not only drunk, but this is a person who naturally is just a bad person, right? So you could say Biden and Trump are both drunk, right? But, Trump is also fundamentally a lunatic. He's also fundamentally very selfish, very thin-skinned, right? Dr. Phil, I'm looking at you. So that being said, and this is a very important part of this video. I want you guys to listen very closely. Even though, so I'm not a propaganda channel, so I don't promote political parties, right? So I'm not going to be putting out the ads. I'm not going to be spending a bunch of time, talking about, oh, Joe Biden did this great thing, or Joe Biden is so much better than Trump. No, I'm not going to spend time doing that. But for someone who is as politically focused as I am, and I'm very politically focused, and who has an understanding that Joe Biden has done good things, like, for example, the infrastructure bill that was passed, the bipartisan infrastructure bill that was passed, forgiving student loans. Some of this stuff was mentioned in the ad as well. But because of my frustration with the Democrats, it creates a little bit of a negative bias. Whereas I'm human. It's going to be a little bit challenging for me to be fully aware of and give full credit to the Democrats for all that they have done. Because I'm not focused on that. I'm not in that tribe trying to promote them or whatever. That's not where my head is at. So it can be easy for me to lose a lot of the little good things that they did. I know for sure they haven't really done much in terms of how much they could do. I know they haven't been fighting. But for the things that they have done that are meaningful, it's easy for me to lose. Like, for example, if I needed to do a debate, and for whatever reason, the debate was about which one's better, Trump or Biden, I would have to do some research, right? I'm not familiar. Like, if you talk to a propagandist like Brian Tyler Cohen, he can on the spot, I'm sure, tell you, like, Joe Biden did this and more this than history, and right? That's not me, right? You ask a typical right winger, they're gonna know all the right wing talking points, all the Trump talking points. The inflation was lowest than it's ever been, blah, blah, whatever it is, right? They have the border was secure. But since I'm not in a tribe, I'm not a propagandist, I don't have that stuff ready to go. I can just tell someone with confidence that Joe Biden has delivered meaningful things that have helped a lot of people. I think he should have done far more, but I can at least recognize that. But the details are missing, right? So if a person like me, who's focuses so much on politics, if even I don't really have a full understanding of everything that Joe Biden has done, what do you think happens when you just deal with a regular person who's not focused on politics like I am, right? Just an average person just going through their lives, working their jobs, dealing with their family, whatever they're dealing with. If I don't fully understand all that Joe Biden has done, all that the Democrats have done, what hope do you have of just an average person? So that's a huge problem, right? And that's a huge messaging problem, right? If the Democrats are not, and admittedly, again, I do have a negative bias against them. So even if some of their messaging does get in my face or whatever that's not the word I want to use, I'm not going to be excited and like, oh, look what Biden did. And I'm rushed to go tell someone, look what Biden did, right? I'm going to have kind of a negative attitude of like, okay, but what about all this other stuff that you're not even trying to improve on or trying to fight for? What about all these other things that you said you were going to do and then you don't even seem to try, right? What about all the policies you put out there with seemingly good intentions, but they have so many fundamental flaws that it's creating so much damage, and there's no accountability. No one's trying to fix them. No one's trying to like, okay, this was a good try, but we got to make this thing better, right? So I think that is very bad, because when people are trying to vote and part of their decision is based on, this question, like, what have they done for us? What have they done? I voted for Joe Biden the last election. What has he done for me? Why should I vote for him again or not vote for him again? If you're not fully informed on even the little things that they have done, to me, that's a huge problem, right? Because there's a lot of messaging of like do nothing Democrats, whatever. Like the right wing are really, really good at their messaging. And you have someone who is a left-wing person who's not a right-winger at all, and they can be persuaded by right-wing rhetoric, right? They can actually be persuaded. I'm not a right-winger, not a conservative, but they keep hearing it over and over again about how Joe Biden is so old and what has he done? He hasn't done anything, blah, blah, blah. And they may recognize in their lives, they're like, okay, when Trump was president, my life was pretty much the same as it is now. The only thing that's changed is the rhetoric guys hear online. So it's like, what difference does it make, right? I think it's important for people to recognize, like a person like that, maybe it didn't really affect your life, but what about the lives of others? And what about things that have a significant impact to the country that may have been done by the Democrats, but you're not even aware of it? So then you sit out the election, for example. So I just thought it would be good to share this video. The ad is obviously more focused on the Black community. So if I have any viewers that that kind of stuff is sort of appealing to, I'm just putting it out there so you're better informed. Now, the right thing to do is to be skeptical of those claims made. You should always be skeptical, just like when Trump makes claims. I would look into those claims independently, verify whether they actually did what they claim to have done. But at least you should know what the claims are, right? Because, there's one point that was made in the ad that I think is very, very valid. They say, they talk about that Joe Biden and Kamala, they don't like to run their mouths. They like to get things done. As much disdain as I have for them, that's legit, right? Trump is all day, every day online with his the border on this side of the country is falling apart. He has his like propaganda bullet points that he's just spitting out over and over again, and all of his allies all day long. The border, that's secure the border, right? So that stuff is very effective, right? It's branding all day long, brainwashing the base all day long. Meanwhile, the Democrats, that's just not their style, right? Joe Biden it's interesting. He's actually more like the real businessman, right? Because when you look at it, the most successful, generally speaking, with exceptions, most of the most successful people in the country, business people, CEOs, they're not on social media all day long putting out a bunch of whatever. They're too busy running their businesses, right? They don't have time to be all day going back and forth and this and that, because they're running their businesses, right? To me, that's how Joe Biden has been. Even not doing much, even lying and betraying us, whatever. But he hasn't been just doing nothing. He has been doing something, right? And that's what he's been busy doing in terms of getting things done, right? Again, small amount of things. I think it's crumbs, but it's still things that he's getting done and focused on, as opposed to Trump. To me, is more focused on his rhetoric, right? Those are my thoughts. This is the Debate Me channel. Leave it in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well.